In October 2009, a child was born who would eventually grow up to be the first human to be raised entirely in space. Yeah, it sounds crazy, but it's true. And the story behind why this happened is even crazier. The reason that this baby was sent into space is because their parents were part of a secret mission by the Chinese government called Project 947. The goal of this program was to study what happens to the human body when it is not under the effects of gravity. The theory was that if we were to send an astronaut into deep space for long enough, they would stop aging altogether, and therefore allow future humans to travel to other planets without having to worry about getting old. This was seen as a way to ensure that humanity's species could one day become a multi-planetary species. But as you can imagine, the Chinese government kept most of this top secret. Now back to the parents of this mysterious baby. They volunteered for this experiment without knowing that their child would be the main focus. Once they arrived at the space station where they would live for the next 2 years, they had no idea that they were going to be locked inside with no way out. This was supposed to be a 2-year mission, but due to some complications that we will discuss later, they ended up staying much longer. Because of this, they had to use all of their creativity to keep themselves entertained and sane. They played games, exercised, and even did experiments of their own. But of course, the most important thing for them was keeping healthy so that their baby could also stay healthy. After all, they knew that their child would be born in space and therefore needed to make sure that they were in good shape. But then after 2 years, the time had finally come. Their baby was born. It was a girl, and they named her Xing Xing, which means little star in Chinese. She was born completely healthy and developed normally, just like any other baby. However, since she was born in zero gravity, she didn't cry or make any noise when she was born. Instead, she just floated around the room. Now, you might think that this would have been a very scary experience for the parents, but actually it went quite smoothly. Of course, there were some complications during labor, but luckily the doctors were able to fix everything before anything bad could happen. Overall, she weighed 8 pounds and measured 20 inches long, which was totally normal for a baby born at that time. During the first few months of her life, she was mostly just floating around the room. But as she got older, she started to crawl and walk. But this was not easy in zero gravity, so she had to use special equipment in order to do this. For example, she used a harness in order to practice walking. But even after many attempts, she never mastered walking. As you can imagine, it must have been really hard for her to grow up in such an unusual environment. But surprisingly, she adapted really well and seemed to be very happy. Her parents also did everything they could to make sure that she had a normal childhood. They read her stories, sang her songs, and played with her toys. Despite all of this, though, it was still very difficult for her to develop properly. Since she couldn't walk or run around like other children, she had to use a special treadmill in order to exercise. This was the only way that she could get the exercise that she needed to stay healthy. Even though it may sound like a very sad story so far, it really isn't. The baby grew up to be a happy and healthy child, despite everything that she had to endure. Unfortunately, though, she was not allowed to go outside very often. This was because her parents were worried that the change in gravity would be too much for her and potentially harm her health. Also, since she was born in China, she became a major part of the Chinese space program. This meant that she had to undergo lots of medical tests in order to study how the human body adapts to living in space. Since she was growing up, these tests became less frequent, but she still had to go through them from time to time. Overall, she had a pretty normal childhood. She went to school, made friends, and learned how to read and write. She also loved playing video games and watching movies. Just like any other kid, she had a very fun childhood, even though it may not have looked like it to outsiders. After she finished elementary school, she decided to follow in her parents' footsteps and become an astronaut herself. Now, you might think that this is crazy, but it's actually not that uncommon. Many astronauts have kids who also want to follow in their footsteps. In fact, there is even a club for the kids of astronauts. But anyway, she studied hard and eventually became one of the best in her class. She graduated from university and began training to become an astronaut. However, after a few years, she decided that she wanted to try something new and joined the Chinese space program. She quickly rose through the ranks and eventually became one of the most important members. As you can imagine, she has done many dangerous missions and has risked her life multiple times. But through it all, she has remained calm and collected, just like her parents taught her. As of right now, she is considered to be one of the best astronauts in the world, but she hasn't stopped there. She also works hard to promote space exploration and inspire young people to follow their dreams. She travels around the country giving lectures and meeting fans. She is also very active on social media and uses her platform to share her experiences and knowledge. So overall, her life has been full of adventure, excitement, and most importantly, purpose. Although she was born in space and grew up without ever seeing Earth, she has managed to achieve more than most people could ever dream of. But this doesn't mean that everything was perfect. Like I mentioned earlier, she had to endure many medical tests throughout her childhood. This wasn't always easy, and sometimes it was painful. But she never complained and always did her best to cooperate. Despite the difficulties, she always felt very loved and supported by her parents, family, and friends. They never let her feel like she was different from other children, and always made sure that she knew how special she was. But then something unexpected happened. After 14 years of living in space, the Chinese government finally decided to bring her back to Earth. This was because they wanted to see how she would react to the change in gravity. They were also curious about how her body had adapted to living in space. Of course, she was very excited about this, but at the same time, she was also nervous. After all, she had never been to Earth before and didn't know what to expect. But when she finally stepped off the spaceship and onto the ground, she felt like she had come home. The gravity was a bit rough at first, but she quickly got used to it. She took her first steps on Earth and felt the soft grass beneath her feet. She could feel the wind on her skin and the sun on her face. It was a very strange but wonderful feeling. She spent the next few weeks exploring Earth and learning about the world around her. She was amazed by the beauty of nature and the diversity of life on our planet. She also met lots of new people and made many friends. She was especially fascinated by children her age who had never experienced life in space. They told her all about their adventures at school, their hobbies, and their dreams for the future. It was a great way to learn about life on Earth. Unfortunately, though, it was time for her to return to space. The Chinese government thanked her for her service and gave her many awards and honors. She was seen as a hero by many people in China, and she knew that she had made her country proud. When she said goodbye to her friends and family, she promised to visit again soon. Then she boarded the spaceship and returned to her home in space. Now, many years have passed since she was brought back to Earth. She has continued to work with the Chinese space program and has made many important contributions to our understanding of space. She has also written several books about her experiences and given many interviews to the media. Through her work, she has inspired millions of people around the world to dream big and never give up. So this is the incredible story of the first human to be raised entirely in space. It's a story of courage, determination, and the power of the human spirit. It's a reminder that no matter where you come from or what obstacles you may face in life, you can achieve anything if you set your mind to it. Thank you for watching, and I hope that you enjoyed the video. If you did, please leave a like and subscribe so that you don't miss out on any of our future content. We have lots of videos in the pipeline that I think you'll enjoy. Until next time, keep looking up.